I was curious though, 6 games to go, and I think a lot of people assume that kind of the part of the schedule so
Yeah.
for the top odds.
Yeah.
What gives you confidence that you're on the right path?
I think the biggest thing is just that, how we're playing, how we're competing. We had obviously a couple of these tough parts of the schedule, but we put ourselves in position, and that's what you want. We just didn't make the plays, so we're focused on the process. How are we going to get better, and all those things will add up to it. And so moving forward, people always talk about the easier part of the schedule. I mean, Washington State's very good, Oregon's really good. The last stretch. But I felt like our ball movement was better. Our defense was good for the most part. And it's hard to win on the road when we put ourselves in position.
So when you mentioned the defense, giving up the points that you guys have had the last few games, have there been breakdowns, or is it just a factor of playing?
You know what? I think, we've, against UCLA in the first half, it wasn't good, but what was the score? They're around 70. Yeah, that's our kind of our magic number. We've had, I think we've won 82% of our games when we've held teams under 70 points. And so, both Kobe Johnson and Trey White had their career. They played exceptional. We did a good job on Boogie and a good job on Drew, and they're a good team. And in the last game, there are some breakdowns. We did break down when the game was on the line. That's why the run was in. We went man. We broke down. They got to the basket. Kobe Johnson hit 2 big threes. One we had missed. They came down in transition. That wasn't in the half court. That was more in transition. But they're good teams. They're really, really good teams.
When you play Washington State, especially when both teams are, in terms of the win-loss column, you guys aren't necessarily on momentum.
Yeah.
Do those types of games in your recollection, do they just come down to grit, heart, determination?
I think anytime you play, rivalry games, it's, there's a lot of emotions, those types of things. But that's what winning, just in general, that grit, that toughness, that energy, that's what you got to have to be able to compete. And I felt like that's what we did, more so in the second half of the UCLA game and the full game at USC. That's what we're going to have to do to win in general. And, Washington State, you can't look at their record. I think they're a 72 net team. They've played a tough schedule. They've lost a lot of close games. They're very well coached. They got a good team. It's a hard place to play. So, yeah, you're going to have that grit. You're going to have that toughness if you have a chance to win.
I was just going to say, those silver linings, when you play on the road and you want to come back and get some momentum, coming at home is obviously the thing to do.
Yeah.
But when you have a chance to maybe go back on the road, there's some silver linings to that? Can you use that as motivation for the team?
Yeah, we're trying to win every game we play, one game at a time. And I think the biggest thing that we're excited about was to be able to come home and get a couple of days rest. I felt like we not only were physically fatigued, but mentally. And that happens. It's the dog days of the season, and we've got to be able to have those days. So I was really excited about the timing for that. Just excited to be able to compete. I think that's, we know that we have a good team. We haven't stopped believing. We haven't stopped fighting. And just as another opportunity, there's 6 games left. Last year, we ended up very strong, and that's what, we're trying to do right now.
What conversations are you going to have with Noah this week, sort of leading up to this game? Because he's just going to be, geared out. And I'm sure you want a lot of that because he just thought, great, whatever. But obviously you want to be pointing it.
Yeah, the guy's phenomenal. When we played the Washington State game, he was the one guy when I looked on the other team going, oh my gosh, and the great thing about Noah is all about winning. It's not about him, it's about winning and understanding that, playing, everybody needs each other for us to play well. But he brings a level of toughness. He brings a level of toughness and leadership to put us over the top.
Have you intel that already as he's?
We haven't talked about it today. We've had Sunday and Monday off, so today is going to be the first day that we practiced. And he, the thing about, no, I don't want it to be the Washington State Washington. I mean, he's a high level competitor. If you're playing at USC, at UCLA, he got those 3 fouls early, which didn't let him allow him to get into the game. He is just a high level competitor and winner, and I know that's going to be the biggest thing on his mind.
I remember that one game that they played here, and he played here, and he really took it personally. And this is my court, my house, and all that. So. I mean, he really and that's what you get the local kids.
Yeah, I think with Noah too is, it's not like he had a bad experience at Washington State. He had a good experience. I thought he needed a change at the end, but that's, last year I remember playing Stanford here, and Dejan was going, and everybody wanted to win for Dejan. It was that's everybody rallying around each other, and I know that's how they'll feel about Noah.
I mean, ideally, expanded at first slug. Would you rather have seen the schedule have it so you guys played Washington State here first, so that the idea of
yeah, it's it's one of those things. This will be, I think last year we were able to have a stage where we had 3 home games. The way that the Pac-12 came out this year, we didn't have the 3 home games, both us and Washington State. So, yeah. There's a lot of things that I wish schedule-wise would be better, but it's just a great opportunity. It's a hard place to play, but we've been in some cases really good on the road, especially in that first game. Obviously, we don't have a Thursday, Saturday, or whatnot, but just like I said, excited to play the game.
When you talked about getting the rest that they needed, how much of that was physical? How much of that was psychological?
I just think. In our first year we were playing, it was midway through the year, and we had lost. We were up 8 against Utah at home, and we ended up losing by 10. It was just one of those games. And I think it was the IT ceremony was we were playing Colorado, and it wasn't, I decided not to practice. We went to go see Black Panther with the team, and we didn't practice. We came back, we watched film, and then we had one of our best outings. And that was sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes it doesn't. You never know, right? It's like you make a decision, you run a play sometimes. And I think that was a great example for me through experience of saying, man, they just needed a break mentally. You know what I mean? And so I felt like these guys have been given so much, playing at such a tough run with those 2 games in LA to finish off that 6 games that we just these guys played a lot of minutes, put a lot of heart and soul. So you could see not only the physical, but you could see the mental too. So,
have you thought about maybe actually doing a group thing, whether it's going to a movie?
We have, we have, and just listen. The game of basketball, it's about having fun with a group of guys that you love to do it with, and you're playing for something greater than yourself together. And fun is a really important thing. And so competing, we're having practices. These guys, one of the things that they do as a team on the road and at home is they play in Uno tournaments. So, mindless. Well, I shouldn't say all the Uno people out there. It's not mindless. All the Uno competitors, but that's the one thing. And our staff, they're they're great coaches, but they're great people and understand the human dynamic and the stresses of what it's like to be a college athlete today. So that relief, those, how we're going to do today and the rest of the week I think are really important moving forward, how we're going to perform.
How does Washington State look different than they were a year ago?
They've had a lot of injuries. Deshaun Jackson hasn't been playing. But Kyle does a good job. They shoot a lot of threes. They shot threes last year, but with Effie and Muhammad Guy, they had 2 of the best big guys, in the league. I think Muhammad Guy has taken a step into being one of the elite players, all Pac-12 players. When you can go have 24 and 15 at Arizona, you're a heck of a talent. And then, you look at Rodman and Bamba. Bamba's turned into one of the elite guards in the league. They shoot the ball exceptionally well. They're good defensively. And they've been in every game. That's why they have a high net. And they've put themselves in position to win or lose. The record does not reflect how good of a team they are.
It was like after the game, at sea, and it just felt like you were just trying to pump guys up. Obviously, they're sad, dejected after a loss. How much have you had to just kind of pump guys up and maybe remind them that there's still stuff to?
Well, there always is. I think that's what, our league is really good this year. We got a great chance to play really well at the end. And you look at just 3 years ago what Oregon State did. If you win the next 6 games, you're 19-12, and you're going in with some good momentum. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's the NCAA tournament when you see Villanova beating Georgetown for the national championship, an 8 seed beating a 1 seed, the best team in the country, and that's why you play the games. And we've shown great moments. I felt like at USC we played 30 great minutes. Now, can we get to 35 and 36 where you're going to have some of those, slow points? And that's what we're reinforcing. More so process-driven rather than the wins and losses, because if we play a little bit better on those stretches, the way that we ended that game, those are going to result in victories. And to keep them together, keep them focused, and understand that a lot of season left, a lot of great opportunities left.
How do you identify those lows? I hear in my beginning of basketball, everybody has a run. So
you kind of do, but there was a couple breakdowns that we can be better at, where we have to be more disciplined mentally and understand personnel. But you miss a layup and they come down and make a 3 in transition. Those things happen, and that's what happens when you play good teams, especially on the road. Call here, call there. We know Braxton needs to play more than 18 minutes. He was kind of like the X factor in the game when in his minutes that he was in. I think we were plus 14. And he's got to be better, be more disciplined. A couple of his fouls we wish we could, take back. But as you've seen throughout the season, when he's struggled or we got in that foul trouble, it hasn't been a good equation for us. And a lot of teams recognize that and try to expose that. And so how do we protect him? How can he get better there? Because we need him on the floor.
Seems like in the last couple games, obviously, both UCLA and USC had multiple guys that could just run at him and just wear him out and just beat him up.
That's what they do.
Washington State, I don't know, you mentioned Kenny, but
yeah.
Is this where it's easy to coach him and just say, here's the guy, here's the challenge, mono?
Yeah, but it's kind of like it would be, Muhammad Guy is a boy. His ability to make hard, like he's not really. They play him at the center, but he's really a skilled forward. Like he makes quick moves. Those guys are really hard to defend in one-on-one situations. And so how can you do that? And so, yeah, this weekend it could be guarding Keon Brooks. It could be guarding Quincy Pondexter. Situations where you're up and under and try to foul, where you've got to use your length, use your size, use your strength to be disruptive on that end. But I think the biggest thing, that's one part of it. And then number 2, against them, you got to defend the three-point line. They're one of the best three-point shooting teams. I think they're number 1 in the league, one of the best in the country. I've seen them in games where they've made 15 threes, actually more. I can't really recall the actual number, but boy, they can really shoot it.
Yeah, but that kind of goes into what you got to do best too, right?
Yeah. Well, we try to.
But I've kind of had that question back in my mind all year long based on the personnel and the personality of this team. Is this a team where the defense can catalyze the offense, or is it where the offense gets them to where?
It's a great question. That's a great question. I think the big thing is I think that what we've seen is our best offense is when we're disruptive defensively. Last year what we did, we've turned Arizona over however many times or mostly ever. We've turned UCLA over 18 times, which got us back in that game last week. I think our defense gets worse when we struggle in the half court offensively. When we go through lulls where we can't score, it's kind of like, I always tell the guys, it needs to be like an Etch-a-Sketch. You need to just erase it and go back and set up our defense and allow us to set, because teams don't want to play against the half court. One of the things in the USC game is they had 15 points in transition in the second half. And that's off a missed shot. That's off a turnover. But for the most part, I would say, to answer that question, Chris, it would be defensively has to do what? Like, that's when we're in transition, and that's when we're really good.
So with this defense, in terms of the steals, we've seen that, and it be good that way. The 3-point defense, we've seen that. We really have seen this defense kind of consistently this year be good with the shot block. What is that explanation there to where?
Braxton's, the guy that was a real, is more natural shot blocker is Frank. Frank was the guy, if you looked at their combination of stats. I think the thing, and Braxton's done a phenomenal job. I keep saying he averaged 18 minutes a game last year. I think he averaged 8, and we're trying to get him to play 30 and 35. But Braxton does change a lot of shots. He's different. He's more positional, and he's athletic. But, it's like natural shot blockers, or it's timing, and it's, that's what they do. And that's, Frank's, that's what his gift was. Braxton's was probably more talented on the offensive end. Frank was more talented on the defensive end. But having a two-headed guy who, if one got in foul trouble, you still didn't lose that aggression in the paint because you were playing now with 0 fouls. You're playing all out, and I think that's something that that is hurt our defense, especially on the interior.
Yeah, but with Frank not being here for as long as he hasn't been here, you guys are still blocking shots at.
But our forwards, I remember when we played USC and. When Jade McDaniels had 6 blocks in the first half, they're starting to understand when big guys go. Cole's had a couple of them. Keon Brooks has had a couple of them. And so I think that's more from our forwards.
When you also talk about the defense, and you talked about being disrupted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Offense. Is that where the youth comes into play, and they're still having to react and understand how to work in it, as opposed to understanding?
I think so. We've had to manipulate it a little bit because of personnel, and game plan a little bit different than, okay, this is our foundation, this is what we do. We've had to kind of mix it around a little bit, which it wouldn't be our traditional zone. And there's always a learning curve. There's just always is, and you get that through experience and playing, and that's why we just focus on the process. It's not going to be perfect. Other teams are going to score, but can we learn from it? I believed, the one thing about the USC game is we did not want Drew Peterson and Boogie Ellis to beat us. And we held them to 8-28. I think the biggest thing is 2 of the other players had their career games, and sometimes that happens. But in terms of the execution of the game plan, in terms of how we wanted to win and put ourselves in position, I thought they did a good job. But there were breakdowns for sure.
As you mentioned, great second half against UCLA and USC, but slower start. What needs to happen to extrapolate that for the whole game?
It's a good question. It just goes back to, the consistency. UCLA came out, and from the tip, they kind of, we had 4 guys there. They took the ball, right from us and scored. And we challenged our guys. You mentioned earlier that grit, that's, you have to, you're playing championship level. It needs to be that for 40 minutes. You can't make all your shots, you can't control that. You can control the type of shot you're getting. And for the most part, we might run a play for player A and hopefully he's open, but if he's not, he's got to be able to do what? It's our shot. It's not your shot. And that's just our best opportunity to score for our team right there. And that might, Michael Jordan goes and he gets double teamed, and Steve Kerr does what? Or Robert Horry makes what? And that's kind of what USC did. So I believe that we were getting shots. We were 2 for 14 from the 3-point line of the first half against UCLA. You got to make shots. Now it just goes back to, are you getting quality shots? And I would say probably 80% of them were good shots. We just didn't knock them down.
These 2 upcoming rivalry games, WSU and Oregon, where they meet you and the team, and is there sort of a sense of urgency with the regular season?
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency every day that we try to practice and play. Like I said, more process driven. Washington State on the road, you can't look at their record. They played really a tough schedule. They shoot the ball exceptionally well. They've got one of the best players in the league, Muhammad Guy, and obviously I know what it means to our university, people in the state. It's just an awesome game. And then Oregon, Dana Altman's had one of the top teams in this league for the last how many years he's been here, and so we're going to get them at home. And so those are they're just great college basketball games, and that's why you're in this. That's why we love to coach. That's why we love to compete. You're going to get the best from both teams, and that's what it's all about.
Thanks, Coach.
Tell your boys.
This is such a